Okay, so here we are. This is the fourth video of this series. This is day 2 of trying to record it. I'm wearing the same shirt because I didn't actually wear it outside the house. I'm not going to wear this outside the house. It's one of those shirts, I think I've mentioned it before, where I bought it at a certain size. I think I bought it at like a large or an XL. No, I think I bought it in a large. And then it was like, oh yeah, it's like a European large, which means in the US it's actually a medium. Like, cool, this doesn't actually fit super well. I think it's fun for, like, when I'm talking about RPGs, let me wear an RPG themed shirt I have. But anyways, so we are now on number 6 of this top 10 series, so let's go ahead and get into it. For me, number 6 is Fire Emblem. So we're going to start with Fire Emblem Awakening. Now, you might be wondering why I'm using Smash 4 instead of Fire Emblem Awakening. 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't actually have a physical copy of it. Clay had it on his 3DS, so I literally borrowed his 3DS to be able to play Awakening. And just a weird little fun nugget, I think it was the day the day after I finished playing through Awakening was the day that Chrom was revealed for Smash Ultimate, and I was like, that was just kind of neat. The timing was perfect. But also, this game is basically my awakening to wanting to play Fire Emblem. Like a lot of people, I was introduced to the series through Smash, specifically through Melee. That gave us Marth, that gave us Roy. Roy's our boy. But I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't super, man, let me really play these. And there's a few that came out after it. And even, because, yeah, this dude seems cool, but... But then Smash 4 happened. Robin happened. I am a Robin main in Smash 4. Robin is one of the characters I still play a lot of in Smash Ultimate. She is my baby girl. She is my beloved. And he's like, yeah, this is the game I'm going to use to represent that, because my first was Fire Emblem Awakening. Genuinely, I had a good time playing the game. I thought it was very fun. I've said before, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a great chess player, but I like chess. I like games that are very tactical. And so having a game that's all about that, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is really neat. There is a decent little amount of customization. Now, obviously, each person's loadout, what items do you want to give them, their equipment. It's mostly, for me, I guess there's also, their abilities, but a lot of it is the classes, too, once you can start playing around with classes, which there's other games where you can really do that and really get into the customization, and surprise, surprise, I kind of like those games a bit more. But I thought the game was very fun. From what I remember about the story, it was the first third is pretty good. It has Don't Speak Her Name, which is one of my favorite songs and tracks from Fire Emblem. I remember loving that chapter, especially because I knew that Emrin was a playable character, because I think it's DLC or weird amiibo stuff you can do. So I had heard about that and was like, oh, okay, we're doing all this stuff because she's gonna die, but I know she's playable, she's fine. Wait, what do you mean she died? It's one of those really interesting things where you get spoiled on something, and because you got spoiled, you add, the real shit that happened was even more surprising. I'm that's just kind of neat how that worked out. And then I love the chapter after. I think it's fantastic. Then the next third is, I don't remember the dude's name. Clay and I just called him the Big Red Lobster Man, which was fine. Again, it was it's a war, you're doing the tactics and whatnot. I think at one point Robin's strategy was here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna set our ships on fire and just throw them at him. It's that's so stupid. It might just be stupid, and it actually worked. I think the last third was actively dealing with Grima and the dragon and all that cool stuff. It was cool and I enjoyed it. I like Chrom quite a bit. I love Lucina. I think she's a really cool character. I think she's a really interesting character. I love her conflict because, I married Chrom and Robin together because if we're gonna play this game, we're gonna play this game. We're gonna make sure that Lucina's a monster, and oh boy, Lucina was a monster. I'll talk about that in a second. But that moment in the game where Lucina's here's the thing. I want to save the future, and I want to save my father. And to do that, I have to kill you because of what you're capable of and what you're going to do. Which means I have to kill my own mother. And I'm willing to do it. That is cold. But I kind of really respect it. And even Robin's like, yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong. Do what you gotta do. And I liked all that a lot. So, there was a point in the game, I think it was either like early in the first third or late in the second third, where I was like, this game is really hard. Not because I keep losing, it's like I keep losing units. Because they're just so squishy. And it's like I made sure that they were getting experience and that they were doing well, but they're just dying to everything. And I don't want that to happen. It's permadeath. So there was a point where I just said, you know what? Robin does a lot of work. Crom does a lot of work. Lucina does a lot of work. Morgan does a lot of work. What if I stopped bringing the other units and just had the 4 of them and paired them up with like a flying unit? So that way they'd have a lot of mobility and I could just send them to the 4 corners of the map and let them cook. And then they'll like come together and start marching. And then the game went from really frustratingly hard because my units were dying to, oh, this is super easy, barely an inconvenience because this family is dumb. But, yeah, it's like I enjoyed Awakening quite a bit. The next Fire Emblem game I played was this one. Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. So this is a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, which was the second game, which I've not played. I've only played 4 of these games, and you could probably guess what the other 2 are. I talked about them in my Nintendo Switch video. Just saying that alone, you can guess what they are. I guess I should go and say I did play a chunk of Path of Radiance. I think like a third, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. I had stopped, like, this game is just way too slow, man. It's just kind of bothering me and like, getting kind of grating. I would like to pick it back up at some point. I'd intended to do it at some time this year, but there's a lot of things I intended to get to this year that I just never did. Kind of the nature of the beast. But when it comes to Echoes, I heard the final boss, I guess the final map music, the Twilight of the Gods. And and I immediately bought the game. I was like, this is so good. This goes so hard. I think Clay had sent it to me. He's like, dude, like, this is the final boss theme of the Fire Emblem game that just came out. Like, it's really cool. And I was like, huh. And I texted him later. I literally just put it, like, this is amazing. Oh, God, that final map was brutal. Because one thing I do on Fire Emblem games is, like, I want to get through the game without losing units. And part of that is just look, I don't want to lose a really good unit and then be screwed later in the game. And part of it is also almost kind of like that sense of completion. Like, you know, we're not going to lose anybody. If you've seen Godzilla -1, it's that kind of mentality, you know? That's not really the case in the final map. You know, if I'm playing a game with resets, then sure, I'm going to use my resets. If not, or if I'm out of resets, if they die, they die. It is the end of the war. It's almost kind of fitting that way. And I remember I lost like a good 3 to 4 people in the final map. Jeddah took out a few. He was, oh God, I hated Jeddah so much. I think he killed May, and I think he killed Delphia, or the dragon, was it Duma, I think was his name? He might have killed Delphia, I don't remember. But I lost some good people that day, and that was rough. I did like the music quite a bit. I like with, is it Milla or Milia? I think it's Milla. Anyways, Divine Protection, And there is a Smash remix. I'm like, I do like it. I think it's pretty good. I basically like every version of that theme. The version Engage rules. I kind of wish we got a little bit of Twilight of the Gods in that map and in that remix, but I will take it. It's a fire remix. I like and Celica. I know it's not a line in the remake, but you've got the "Don't worry, Celica, I'll crush these bastards" at the start of the final map, and I like that. I remember enjoying Berkut quite a bit. From what I understand, he's not in the original version. He's unique to Echoes. And I liked this guy a lot. I know this game gets a lot of shit for some of its map design, particularly like all the poison maps. And I remember, yeah, those were ass, but I made it through. One of my recurring strategies throughout the game that I didn't need an awakening because I just had the family. And I don't think I think I used it a bit in Three Houses. I did my own weird shit with Engage, but I remember the convoy strategy. It specifically did it a lot with Celica. I'm like, okay, here's my squishy mages, and here's my tanks, and then just slowly, methodically making my way through the map. And I remember I would, when I was doing it, I was actively singing the song Convoy. We got a mighty convoy rocking through the night. And it was one of those things that, Clay just found super annoying, and Jose found, really entertaining every time. But, do I have anything else I really want to say about it? Oh, there is one thing I think is super neat, is when you get to it's one of the really late maps when finally is like, all right, the deliverance, we're gonna go fight the Emperor, because it's the Emperor is his father. He will never, from what I understand, it's he will go out of his way to not attack and I think that's a really neat little touch. I also remember there was this point in the game where Celica just annoyed the hell out of me. I don't remember the context. I think Jeddah was like, hey, if you join with, if you do this, then I'll do this. And it's yeah, this dude is super sus. Why would you believe him? Then Celica's like, yeah, I'm still gonna believe you. I think it was something where it's if you submit to me, I promise not to hurt and I'm like, Celica, I know you maybe don't know all of this. Can take care of himself. You don't need to do okay, you're doing this. Sure, dog. I thought it was a little stupid, but overall, I really, really loved Echoes. Then we get, sorry, I was gonna try to say it in Spanish, Casa. Thank you. I was I couldn't remember how to, so, Fire Emblem Tres Casa, I think is how you would say that. So, if we're on the subject of Three Houses, I have to show off my Curtis figure, because this makes me happy, because I think this is just super neat. Okay, so anyways, actually, I scared the hell out of my cat with that sudden transition, but anyways, to actually talking about Three Houses. What I love about this game is also kind of what I hate about this game, is that it's 3.5 games in one, and then I guess with DLC. I've never actually played Ashen Wolves, so I guess it's 3 whole games and 2 half games, which essentially makes it 4 games. But anyways, you've got your 3 main routes, and then also there's the church route, which is only a post time skip thing, so it's kind of half a route. I do like all 3 routes, although I do have some problems with Black Eagles, notably that it's a few maps shorter than the others, and it shows. It's the only one that doesn't get the rematch at Gronder Field. I don't remember if it's the only one that doesn't deal with those who slither in the dark, because I don't remember if Blue Lions deals with that. Golden Deer was the thing like that. Golden Deer deal with it, but the fact that these are Edelgard, even though she's allied with them, they are still her personal, nemesis. Possibly, arguably, even more than Rhea, in some respects. The fact that you don't get a map of having to fight them, and you don't actually deal with them, bothers me. Like, it's not that Black Eagles feels half-baked, although the way you do the church route is you start Black Eagles, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but, like, there's something you have to do with, like, Edelgard, and if you do it, you continue on Black Eagles. If not, you're on a completely different route. It's like, it's not half-baked, but it's slightly undercooked, and that does bother me. But I like our three main lords a lot. I love how Edelgard is the main antagonist of the game in the other routes. I just think that's super neat. I do think Dimitri's route is very interesting, just all the shit this poor boy goes through. I love Claude. Claude is... I just freaking like this dude. I really like the cast. I recruited the shit out of these kids. It's like, partly it's like, hey, I don't want to have to kill you later, and part of it is, look, I've used you in another route. You are an absolute unit. Come here, I'm gonna need you. But I was saying the thing I really like about it is the thing I really don't like about it, and part of it is, Black Eagles is a little undercooked. It's also the fact that this game basically took me 200 hours, because I think each route took me about 60-ish. And that's, because I also say I didn't do the church route. I was like, I don't feel like I'm missing a whole lot, because from what I understand, it's just, you're basically just doing the Golden Deer maps again. The first half of the game is the exact same in every route. And there's the part of me that's like, look, I get it. This is when everyone's together. Everyone would be kind of doing the same stuff. Like, it makes sense. But it's also, you're like, cool, like, I beat the game. Now I have to do another playthrough because I want to see, like, the rest of the story. And I want to see where it goes with this character in this house. Oh, yeah, I have to do the first, like, 30 hours again. And it's basically the exact same. And there's not a function to skip it, and there shouldn't be, because that's still important, because you still have to get to know your lord and understand their story and all that shit, and also build your characters up. It's like, I get why it's like that. And don't get me wrong, I would prefer it's 3 games in 1 instead of, like, Pokemon, where you have to buy every version individually. It's kind of one of the reasons I haven't played Fates. But it does, I guess, at least for me, it makes the experience a bit of a slog. Like, it was several years before I finally played Blue Lions. Like, look, I need a break. And then I just got distracted by other shit. I do think the game is great. I love the customization in this game. You can build a character in so many different ways, depending on what you teach them, what you make their class. I think the game is just really, really fun. Oh, also, haven't really said much about the music in this game. The music's fucking fire. All, like, the final map themes are really good. The Gronder Field music is really good. Fodland Winds is really good. I'm gonna say that a lot. The, Edge of Dawn is also a song I really like. It's just, I love Three Houses. And if you saw my Switch video, you know that I do enjoy Engage more. My beloved Fire Emblem Engage. I played so much Engage last year. Like, I don't remember what my playtime was. I think when I finished the game, it had said, like, 75, 82 hours. I feel like it was somewhere in that range. Like, haha, that doesn't include the maps that I spent hours on and then couldn't finish. I played a lot of this fucking game. I've mentioned a few times in this series that, hey, this is a game that I watched Clay play and then didn't feel like I needed to do it myself. Dragon Quest XI, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I feel like there was another one on the list that I had brought up. Engage was a game that I watched him play, and instead of doing I'm kind of getting what I need vicariously, I'm good, and instead I went, I can't wait to play this. And specifically, it was, I believe it's chapter 17. It's the one with falling petals, which, talk about great Fire Emblem music, it's so good. That is the 6 on your side, 6 on our side map. And I saw him play that map on hard, and I was like, this looks so fun and so wild. I want to play the game on Maddening, specifically for this map. And Maddening drove me nuts. I hated that, because again, I'm like, I don't want to lose any of my units. I definitely lost some people. What was it? I think it's chapter 10 or 11. The one where you lose your rings and you have to escape. It took me so many attempts to do that map, and I had to lose people. Who did I lose? I remember I lost Chloe, who was actually doing a lot of work for me. I think there was like another 2 or 3 units where I was like, this is a unit I really like and have been using quite a bit. And they didn't make it. Game was rough. But it's so fun. You want to talk about customizability. And again, it's, sorry, brain died for a second. I think part of it is like, yeah, like you can kind of mess with a person's skills, like what you want them to focus in, you know, kind of a la Engage, a la Three Houses, but also there's the Engage system. Who do you want to give the rings to? Do you want to give them a big ring? Do you want to give them a small ring? So only got so many big rings, and who's best suited for this particular ring, and blah, 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 and I loved it. I loved micromanaging here. One thing I think is really interesting, because you play Awakening and you're like, okay, Robin is a monster. Robin is an absolute unit. And then you play like Echoes. You're like, okay, yeah, and Celica are doing a lot of work. You play Three Houses. Curtis is doing a lot of work. The Three Lords are doing a lot of work. So you kind of have that expectation that your main lord is going to be your best unit. Or at least one of your, like, top 2 to 3. Alear kinda sucks. Crest. Sorry, that's what I called her because of the toothpaste hair. Crest was not that good. And I weirdly liked that a lot. Now, when she's engaging, she's a lot better because she gets, like, special bonuses for it. When she's not engaged, or those parts of the games where you just don't have a lot of rings, you feel how weak she is. Which, I think, as someone who I was just saying, like, played Fire Emblem games with really busted Lord characters, having one where I didn't was like, okay, I kind of like the reversal here. I have to really rely on my other units. The other part of me is like, I love this because it fits her character very well. The first time, what are they called? They're not like called the Undead, but Sombrero's army. I don't know what they are. They're like, all right, Divine Dragon, let's go. Like, what's the plan? Run. Run? We've been waiting for like 100 years to come clear their army. Nah, I want to live. And I actually really like Crest's character arc, where it's like, I'm afraid of the army, I don't want to do this, I don't want to die, I don't want to fight. Slowly but surely building her confidence until it becomes hubris. Getting absolutely humbled at her worst, at her lowest. And slowly but surely building her way up, getting her army back, getting her rings back. But staying humble. Learning her lesson. I liked that a lot. I know a lot of people shit on Engage, like, oh, the story sucks, the characters suck, everything sucks except the gameplay, and there's probably people who don't like the gameplay either. I disagree very hard with that. As I was just saying, like, I like Crest and her arc quite a bit. I like a lot of the cast. Their supports are really fun. I have to give my shout out to Panette and to Pandreo. They are my ride or dies. I adore these two. There are definitely some characters where I'm like, I don't really care for you. Like, what was her name? Like, Fran? Fran was a little much for me, but she's not, like, awful. I remember not caring for Hortensia at first, and then she kind of grew on me more as the game went on, and then also she was vital to some of my strategies. I think in terms of gameplay, my proudest thing was, what map was it? I want to say it was like chapter 20 or something. It's the one where you fight Vale I think it is the one where you kill Evil Vale. Which, by the way, I have to shout out Megan Taylor Harvey for her fantastic performance as Vale. Where, like, oh yeah, regular Vale and Evil Vale sound so completely different. It was like, I think at one point I was like, I'm like 99% sure it's the same person, but I need to check. Because, like, the voice differentiation here is so good, I gotta know. Like, fantastic. I had done that chapter, and I lost. And I'd spent so much time on it. I was so close. I was so far just to start losing people. And I was so pissed. And I left. I got food. I think I went and got, like, a calzone at an Italian place. And said, all right, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Could I beat this in one turn? Could I have Hortensia use Micaiah, use rewarp, and warp a whole squad, like, really close, and then have, like, Seed All Dancer, and then she does it again? Could I get people close enough? And then, I don't know, probably use, like, Marin and Panette and kill her? Because then I could have Jean be with Curtis and Goddess dance. And if I position everyone right, I could maybe, like, get both of them back in and maybe get Seed All back in to dance someone a third time. There's a chance. And then I did it. I did beat the map in one turn, and I felt very, very satisfied. Chapter 17 was amazing. I had said, it's like, I want to play the game on Maddening for this map and this map alone, and it delivered. It was so rough, but it was so fun. I gave up Maddening a few maps after. It was specifically the fire map with, I can't remember her name now. But it was, what were they called? Like the Four Hounds, I think? The lady with the horns and, like, whatever. I want to call her, like, Celestia, but that doesn't sound quite right. But I don't know, maybe that was the name of, like, her good version in the DLC or whatever. Anyways, it's the fire map. I believe that's when you kill her. I was, like, at the end of the map, and then I lost a couple people. I was like, nah. This was, like, 2-3 hours. I did the map I wanted to do on Maddening. I think I'm ready. Because I remember also doing Crest's Paralog. Oh, fuck, I forgot the Paralog maps. The Paralog maps are so fun. They're rough. There's some bullshit. There's some absolute bullshit. What's his name? Leaf, the dude from Thracia. That shit was ass. Lynn's and so many people to deal with. It was ass. But, they were so fun. Like, once you kind of get it, and, like, this is my strategy, and if I could get it to work, it's gonna fucking rule. Like, that's why I really like Fire Emblem. But, Crest Paralog on Maddening, I'm like, look, there are way, way too many people. And there's too many people. I can't kill them all in, like, one turn. Like, it will take a couple people to get these kills. I just can't do it. And then I put it down to hard, and I tried that paralog again, and it was like a cakewalk. I think it's the penultimate map is where you fight the mom again. And that was another one I did on one turn. It wasn't on maddening, but I did it on one turn. That felt kind of nice. There was something else I was going to say about Engage. I don't remember what it was. The music is really good. Like, the original music, I think, is good. What is it called? Like, Bright Sandstorm from the Soul maps, I absolutely love. I mentioned Falling Petals. I do like the final map music quite a bit, too. What I love about... Excuse me, sorry. What I was trying to say there is I love the paralog themes. It's like, yeah, here's a theme from this game. And sometimes it's like a combination of songs. I really like that. I thought a lot of those remixes were really cool and really good. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that was the only other thing I wanted to bring up was Corrin. So, there was a point in the game where I just had Corrin on a Lear. I was like, I'm not giving you to anyone else. I know Corrin Yunaka's super busted. My Yunaka was just so weak throughout the game, I just kind of dropped her eventually. I love Yunaka, all high up papaya, but it just wasn't working. I had Corrin on a Lear because when she has Corrin, she can do any of the terrain boosts. So I would have her use fire, because what the fire does is it heavily obstructs movement, not in the way where ice does, where the ice will just be like, okay, here's a thing, they can destroy it and then keep moving. It affects everyone's movement in that vicinity, which was really helpful for creating my own choke points. And something I learned, because I was like, I need to try this to see if it works, and it does. I would have her fire, and then dance her, and then she could do it again. So it wouldn't be like, all right, if you have one fire, well, the other flames disappear. No, you can have both and just make multiple choke points, which can be good for offense. It can be great for defense, which I really, really, really needed on maddening. So, and again, that's another thing I really like about Fire Emblem. It's that feeling of when a plan comes together, it's really satisfying. But what I loved about Engage in particular was I've got a lot of resources. Let me reach deep into the bag of tricks to figure out what I can use to get through this, because this is ass. I loved it. I really did. So like I said, Fire Emblem is at number 6, and I think for me, the reason I have it higher than some of these others is the consistent quality amongst the games that I have played. With Final Fantasy, there's a couple where I'm like, I'm not as big, like, I didn't love these. And with Cold Steel, it's kind of also the same thing. It's like there's 2 that I adore and 2 that I like quite a bit. Here I'm like, well, I loved Echoes, I love Three Houses, I love Engage. And I don't love Awakening quite as much. I don't think I was quite as invested in its story, although I do think it's quite good. I didn't love the gameplay as much as the others because I kind of got to a point where I realized I can literally just use 4 people and clear everything, although I think that's really fun and really satisfying in its own way. But it gave me Robin, and with how much I love Robin, it gets a lot of credit from me. It's a lot of brownie points. So I think 6 feels pretty fair, but I can't put it above number 5, and number 5 is the Tales of series, where if I had played 5 Tales games, it would have been perfect, just like consistent across the board. I've actually played 6. So we're going to go over them. Yeah, we're going to talk about 10 games in this episode. We're not going to get to number 4 in this video. I might still have time this morning to record it right after. We'll see. So with most of these, I've tried to go in chronological order, either the order that I played them or the order that they came out, and oftentimes that's kind of the same. Here, I am going to be going by my own personal rankings of the 6 games, but I'm going to be going backwards. So going from 6 to 1, at number 6, we've got Tales of Arise. I know that there's a lot of people who love this game. I don't remember if it won like Best RPG at the Game Awards the year it came out, which, I mean, say what you will about the Game Awards, but I just kept hearing people say, like, oh, I love this game is so good, this is like the best Tales game, or this is the first Tales game I have played, now I'm invested in the series. If you love this game, you love this game. I'm glad that you have something that you love. I don't. I, really don't. I'm gonna try to keep this relatively short. Number 1, cure points. Why? They suck. I loathe this mechanic. I don't want to say cure points ruined the game, but for me, they kind of did. Tales of Arise felt like an identity crisis, and I don't know why it was having one. Because what was the game before this? Berseria? I mean, I guess there was like Crestoria, and they were trying to do their own weird shit. And like, we'll get to Berseria in a bit. Like, I love that game. But Arise felt like, hey, wait a second. We're Bandai Namco. We make Dark Souls. Why don't we try to make this a bit more Dark Souls-y? Like, what if you could go to a bonfire and then just, like, reset all the enemies? What if, there's, like, a stamina meter, which is also, like, a thing in Berseria, and I'll be honest, like, I think it works better in this game, because you have, like, a weird stamina thing instead of TP, and I don't prefer it, but I guess it's fine here, but I don't prefer it. Cure points felt like these are supposed to be your Estus flasks or your blood vials or whatever. You have a limited number of heals. You can buy items to restore it. That's what orange gels do, because there's no TP anymore. Orange gels are also, I think, thrice the price of life bottles, because I think life bottles were what, like, it was either like life bottles are 300 and orange gels are 1,000, or life bottles are 1,000, because there's no way a life bottle will be only 300. I think life bottles are 1,000 and then orange gels were 3,000. Like, it was absurd how expensive they were. It's like, yeah, you have limited heals. Why? Now, yes, that is in a way a mechanic of Tales games, where you'll have, I think the item cap is 15 for any individual items. It's like, you have a limited amount. But this is stupid. And here's what makes it even worse. So, number 1, cure points. I think that was also another thing, is like when you stop at a bonfire, because they're literally like, it's a campfire. It's a fucking bonfire. You're literally sitting in a damn fire. I know I was going to keep this short, but that ain't happening. It will also restore your cure points. The way, like in Souls, it'll restore your Estuses. So, number 1, the gimmick of the main character, Alphen, is he can, like, set his sword on. He's like, alright, I'm going to use my blazing sword, which is literally hurting me by holding it, because I'm holding a rod that is made of fire, which is cool as hell. So he is losing health, the trade-off being more damage. In a game where healing is notably more limited than in other games, your main character's mechanic is, I can hurt myself. Okay, so Alphen's going to need to be healed a lot, so there's going to go a lot of cure points. Thing number 2, cure points are not just your healing and resurrection spells, it's also your buffs. You want Rinwell to cast Sharpness to make to make yourself stronger. Takes the same resource as healing, so is it really worth it? I don't think so. That sucks. Also, the overworld interactions that every character can do a thing for, where it's like Dohalim's like, alright, I'm gonna do a thing with vines so we can start climbing them. Or Alphen can, like, use his sword and do shit, yet they all take cure points. Shion being in the overworld and healing a person and that taking cure points, okay, I can believe that. That makes sense. It sucks, but it makes sense. No one else is healing people. Why does this take cure points? It sucks. And it's terrible, and I hate it. I'm just also not a big fan of the main cast. Like, I think Alphen's fine. Like, I like him. I like Shion, although there's moments where I'm like, all right, I'm not feeling this, but I think she's all right. I like Kisara. I like Dohalim. Law, bless his heart. There is this scene in chapter 4. It's not really chapters, but when you're dealing with the 4th Renin Lord, I don't remember her name, but it's the woman. And she's basically the victim of a witch hunt, which I thought the witch hunt thing was super interesting because one's like, oh yeah, she's the victim of it, but this is all part of the scheme. And like, I'm going to go out of order here for a second. I know I'm talking about that, but let me talk about some of the things I absolutely love about this game is I love the theme. I love the game's theme of slavery and freedom. I don't want to say slavery versus freedom because it's not trying to be like, should we do this or do this? Like, no, it's be free. But it's about all the different forms that captivity can take. In the first arc, it is being a literal physical slave. Your body is trapped. Like, your body is forced to work for someone else. There's no hope of escape. Then you get to the next one, the very Orwellian state, and how you have you're not like a slave in the mines, but there's no real freedom either. And a lot of it is all mental, and I find that super interesting. And then you've got Dohalim, where it's like, oh no, like, we're actually free. But there's also the illusion of freedom, because he could just kind of snap his fingers and say, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. Especially when you learn he's not doing it because he's altruistic. He's not doing it because he believes in change. He's like, I literally hate listening to them scream. It gives me PTSD. So, yeah, that's it. He's not as good as you think he is. I do find that it's an interesting idea. The way, I don't want to say it was like really silly, but the way it was done, it was just like, wait, so the reason you changed your society and you made it this like flourishing state where people live in harmony is you're like, yeah, I just can't do it with the screaming. Like, what? What do you, I mean, you get the whole thing, you see his back, like, it makes sense, but you're also just, what? The next one is about how people can be slaves and be captive by their own emotions, particularly anger. When you're angry and you've got hate, you can succumb to that even when you know you shouldn't. And it can lead you down a path you wouldn't otherwise go down. And I find that really interesting. And then the last one is like, it's a cult. It's just straight up. It's like being a slave to religion and to your beliefs and all that. And I just love that. I love how it's like, here's all these different forms of captivity. Here's all the different ways your chains can manifest. Then we get to Rena, and it's like, alright, now here's the whole big picture about, like, the maiden and Alphen being born in a lab, or, like, whatever the fuck, and, oh, the Renans are a slave to, because of the eating planet, and the whole sovereign thing and system is a lie, and I'm like, look, it's not that any of this is bad, because I genuinely don't think it is, but I felt like we went from, like, really good, interesting stuff with some missteps, and again, I'll talk about it in a second, to just, what? This is what we're doing? Okay. I know I brought this up before, but like to me it really reminds me of Final Fantasy IX. It's like the first third, 2/3, like, yo, I am so invested in the story we're telling, and then it's, oh, this is the story we're actually telling. But why? This one was good. What are we doing here? But to my point, during that whole witch hunt arc, when all, like, you got the whole mob mentality, you know, burn the witch, she's done all these horrible things to us, Rinwell wants to burn her. Like, I hate the Renans, I hate the Renan Lords. She killed my family. I want her dead. And the cast is a little hesitant. Not because they don't plan on doing it. It's not like, yeah, Dohalim just joined the party, so maybe we shouldn't kill the Renan Lords because maybe they can change. Maybe they're actually not terrible people. No, they still plan on putting her in the ground. It's just it's law specific. He's like, your eyes, there's so much hate in them. It's, what? What are you talking about? Like, I mean, it's not that he's wrong, but it's, just because you're correct doesn't mean you're right. Yeah, there's hate in her eyes. This person killed her family. We're gonna kill her anyways. So, like, she gets her revenge, and we do what we need to do. What's the problem here, Law? Because I seem to remember us doing the same thing against Ganabelt. And to be fair, was it Ganabelt? Or was Ganabelt the cult dude? No, I think his name started like a V, so I think it is Ganabelt. Also, by the way, the fact that Rinwell, your resident mage, doesn't learn Indignation despite her, like, using light spells. As a Rinwell player, as a Rinwell main, as a blah 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 magic Kazam character, why did you not give me Indignation? It bothered me so much. Now, the way they did Indignation, like as a boss as Mystic, it was really cool. Come on. Anyways, going on tangents, you know, it's one of my videos. So, I get what they're trying to do with Law. Because in some of the skits afterwards, he talks about how it's like, yeah, I got my revenge and I didn't feel better. I just feel empty. Like, it didn't matter. And I think that's the idea, is he's, on the one hand, trying to say, Rinwell, this isn't going to help you. This isn't going to make you feel better. Take it from someone who knows. And is also saying, look, I know that we're going to do this, but the way that you're going about it, it just feels wrong to me. But given that, again, we literally did this earlier with Law, and Rinwell helped him get his revenge, even if it wasn't satisfying to him, feels hypocritical for him to deny her revenge. And as much as Law can say, like, hey, you know, you could take it from me, it's not going to help, Rinwell can say, okay, but that's you. I think it would help me a great deal. Let me have this. And then because of all that going on, like, oh, you know, the Reddit Lord escapes and blah, blah, blah. Like, this arc is stupid. Like, the setup is there, and, like, it was going really well, and then it just kind of crashed and burned. Like, for me, you know, the third act of the game kind of crashed and burned. It's... Of the 6 I've played, it's number 6. So let me talk about number 5. That's Tales of Eternia. Or Tales of Destiny 2. Not to be confused with the actual Tales of Destiny 2. Which will never not be funny to me. I really don't have a lot to say about Eternia. It is the only 2D Tales game that I've played. I've played, like, a tiny little bit of Destiny 1, which I do want to, like, get really into at some point. And I watched Clay play a tiny bit of Fantasia, which I also want to get into at some point. Short version, I think the game is consistently good, but it's very rarely ever amazing. I remember liking the party just like, I liked Farah a lot, and I liked Merity too. I remember the other 2 party members. I don't remember their names. Like, the main character, I deadass, I want to call him, like, Guy. And, like, that's not right. Is his name on the back? Reed. Yeah, his name is not Guy. Like, I completely forgot Reed's name. There is a part with Reed that I really like, which is when he's going through the trial, and it's like he has to be the monster that he killed at one point and, like, experience that. And also say, it's like, this is what you did. You killed a mother looking after her cubs. It was hunting, it was food, but it's like, this is the shit that you did. And when they kind of go more into, like, the backstory of the town and why they're kind of ostracized from the town and Farah's connection to all of that, like, I found that stuff really interesting. But overall, I'm like, I guess the easiest way of saying it is, I think Arise has better highs, notably, like, most of what happened on Dana. But I think Eternia is more consistent overall. It rarely bothered me. I mean, I didn't like a lot of the sailing. Like, it has its problems. But I felt that it was a more consistent experience. So I kind of give it the edge. It's number 5. I guess I don't have a lot to say about Eternia. Then we get this piece of shit. Then we get Tales of the Abyss. And I'll say, this is not the version that I finished. I got through about the first third on the 3DS, and then I had stopped playing for a while, and then picked it up and had no idea where I was going, so I just stopped playing the game entirely. Then last year, Clay and I were going to play through it on the PS2, and after the first third, Clay said, I don't even think he finished the first third. He's like, this sucks, I don't want to play it, I'm done, this is awful. And I finished the game. And I believe I did make a video on Abyss. If you want my full thoughts, go watch that. I'd appreciate it if you do. Short version, I think the first third of this game is dog shit. I think it is terrible. I think the characters are, for me personally, I don't find them very likable. I don't find them super interesting. I don't think the game is that fun. Because like, it's early Tales where you don't have a lot of like your really cool abilities or cool shit yet. The overworld is so slow, and it just chugs, and anytime you save the game, it takes 30 seconds to finish saving. We counted, by the way, and it's just not good. And knowing the twist going in, I'm like, I feel like I'm more sympathetic toward Luke than I'd be otherwise. Like, I get it. He's still a pig. Rating, though, I've got problems. And then you get to Xeriuth, and the game gets way more interesting. The first third is terrible. More or less, the rest of the game is amazing. It's really interesting to me that it seems like there's kind of two camps of people with Tales of the Abyss. There's the game left a horrible first impression, so I never finished it. And then there's the, yeah, I finished it, this game is amazing, and you should play it. Like, I'm not gonna say that's like, oh yeah, there's people who have finished Abyss and still didn't like it. Like, there's people that would exist that are like that. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's like, no, like, of course. There's people who finished Arise and didn't like it. It's totally fair. But I don't know if I've ever talked to someone who finished Abyss and then said, yeah, I still didn't like it. I still didn't like Luke. His development and his growth is so interesting. And I think what I really love about it is it's not just, I'm a good person now. Sorry, my alarm went off because I woke up early. I haven't taken my meds yet. I'll probably do that here in a bit. You see, he has to earn it. It's not that people are just like, cool, we're going to give you a free pass. You say you're going to be a better person. And he's kind of excited for the prospect. He was like, no, I get that you don't believe me. I wouldn't believe me either. Let me show you. And I don't remember a lot of specifics. I think there are some moments where, like, he's almost kind of reverting back into, like, his earlier self. And he gets called out on. He's like, you know what? You're right. So let me do this. Or he's almost kind of starting to do it. And he's like, it's different. Here's why it's different. Because if I was me from, like, a month ago saying this, I would have meant it like this. Now I mean it like this. There's the part of me that's like, is Luke my favorite character in the game? I don't know if I want to say that, but I'm like, who's really a contender? And not to say, because the rest of the cast gets really good too. I think for me, Natalia is my favorite. And what I love about Natalia is, this was the character I played. It's like, I'm going to play the archer. You can't stop me. She's actually really fun. But on top of that, this is the kind of princess character that I love. And I was talking a lot of crap about Final Fantasy IX earlier. Again, I have to give my shout out to Garnet. This is the kind of princess character that I really love. I am the princess, and as such, I don't think you can see him, but there's Bahamut. I think he hears or sees a bird outside because he's like starting to stalk. The character who says, if I have like political authority here in the land, then I need to keep abreast of the things that are going on. Let me be the eyes and ears of the king or the queen. Let me be an ambassador. Let me do something. And just how much her people love her. That arc, when she when she learns, I'm not actually like their biological daughter. I'm not really the princess. And all the people are saying, we don't care. You are our princess because the things you do for us. It's fantastic. Annis is an annoying little shit, and then as the game goes on, I'm like, no, I do like this character. And then you've got Guy and the whole, like, I don't like being touched by women, I don't like being touched by women. I'm like, alright, what happened? Because it's not gonna be good, it's not gonna be good. I'm like, oh, that's so poor boy! I liked Guy a lot by the end of the game, man. Jade's a piece of shit. It's like, he's funny, but I'm like, I don't know if I like this dude. And then as it goes on, again, I'm like, yeah, the cast really grew on me. The game really grew on me. The game got more fun. It just... The overworld still chugged. It was still slow. I'm also just not a huge fan of Van. I don't remember what it was. There was something about his plan that... Sorry, Van plan. I'm not trying to rhyme. There was something about Van and his stupid ass plan. There was something about it where I was like, this is so dumb. Blah blah. I know I talk about it in the video, but like there was this one specific thing where I was like, why don't you just do this? Like, why does no one bring this up? That kind of bothered me. I remember liking the God Generals a lot and how really every member of the party, including Ion, has essentially their own nemesis and their own foil in the God Generals, particularly Luke and Ash. There's also this one exchange in the game where I don't remember the dudes. Again, with an untouchable run. There's this one dude. It's Jade's God General. And it's after you finish his boss fight. He goes... I don't remember the name he shouts out, but it's like his old master or his old flamer might have been both. He goes, I'm coming! And then Luke goes, we won't let you! And they send him blasting off! It was just... Everything about those, 10 seconds were amazing. Also, when the Pope, turns into Oogie Boogie. He really did, turn into Oogie Boogie. Oh my gosh. Abyss, dude. Genuinely, oh, sorry, I hit dismiss and... No, wait, what? Sorry, like I said, the alarm went off, and, I hit dismiss, and then it just came back on 5 minutes later as a do, so I'm like, oh, let me hit the other button. Wait, that one was snooze. Wait, I hit dismiss. Why did it come back at all? That's dumb. Anyways, Abyss, it has problems. I'm not gonna pretend it doesn't. But genuinely, for me, it really overcomes them by the end. And I can make a genuine argument that it should be my number 3 instead of my number 4. For me, the first third of the game really does hold it back. But with all the things I'm gonna complain about with the next one, which also, I'm not really gassing this series up if I'm saying it's number 5. But there's an argument to be made that Abyss should be higher on my list. I highly, highly recommend finishing it. Not just playing it, because I get it. Genuinely, I cannot recommend enough finishing Tales of the Abyss. Number 3 is Vespi. I love Tales of Vesperia. I don't know if I should. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's basically the short version. I had a lot of fun with the cast. I love Yuri. I think Yuri is a really fun character. I think he's a really interesting character. I love having a main character who does not hesitate to put a motherfucker in the ground. I haven't brought up Berseria yet. You can tell why I haven't yet. I love Berseria. Velvet is just absolutely fantastic. But Yuri's got a lot of that too. But Yuri's also, he's very funny. He's very charming. He ticks a lot of boxes for me. It's like, these are the kinds of characters I enjoy. I love Flynn. I love how, despite the fact that they are ideologically opposed and they are enemies a couple times, they still remain bros. It's not just like Lelouch and Suzaku, where they're basically at each other's throats for most of the series. Like, no, we've got our differences, and there's times it's like, really can't let this one slide, man. Their friendship is always paramount. I have a soft spot for Estelle. I like her a lot. She's a good girl. She's a sweetheart. We'll get to that in a bit. We'll get to that in a bit. I like Captain Carol. I love Rita. She is a shithead, but I think she's really funny, and I didn't play as her, but I made sure, like, she is almost always in the party, and I was micromanaging the hell out of her. I was like, I want you casting this, I want you casting this, I want to hear blah, 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 Meteor Storm right now. I think Patty is really fun. Like, Patty was a B team character, but I played her every now and then. Like, I'm just gonna cast Metronome. We're gonna risky cast and see what we get. And sometimes we get something useless, and other times we just get Meteor Storm. That's just the nature of the beast. I liked Raven a lot. I think Judith was really fun. I think that's everyone besides Rapide, and Rapide was the character I played. He's like, it's a dog with a sword in his mouth. You think I'm not gonna play this character? This is good. This is fantastic. I like the cast a lot. The story's really unfocused and just kind of this janky mess. Like, it's not, to me, it's less something like Arise or Final Fantasy IX, where, like, okay, we have this very clear story and setup that we're going for, and then halfway through, or 2/3 of the way through, we're recontextualizing it in a way that kind of changes everything in a way I didn't like. It's just more of, okay, so this is what we're doing at first. We're just kind of doing shit. And now we've got a main antagonist to deal with. And we've dealt with him 2/3 of the way through the game. And now there's like a whole nother third of the game where we're just kind of doing something else. Like, it's a weird, janky mess. Like, anytime it's focusing on Yuri's vigilante tactics and the relationship with Flynn, I think that's really interesting. I really liked the Captain Swan reveal. That was my favorite fight in the game, by the way. Let me get to the thing I was talking about earlier. For better or for worse, to me, Tales of Vesperia is Final Fantasy VII Lite. It is a very environmental, like, pro-environmental themed game. And that's, A, not at all a bad thing, and 2, just being that doesn't make you Final Fantasy VII. But even the way it's handled, like, anytime they were talking about, like, Blastia and the way that Blastia is harvested, how it hurts the planet, I'm like, okay, this is very similar to Materia. Deadass, there was a point in the game where I just said, okay, anytime they say the word Blastia, I'm just going to translate it to Materia. And there were a few points where I remember even saying, the game makes more sense when I pretend they're just talking about Materia. Now, Yuri and Cloud are definitely not one-to-one. Like, it's not that everything is like, okay, this is this, this is this. But the Critians and the Ancients have similar looks. Like, they've got, like, the pointy elf ears. I'm like, okay, like, that's maybe a minor thing, but it's still a similarity. And, like, their relationship with, like, the spirits and the planet and shit. I'm like, okay, that feels very Final Fantasy VII. Duke, to me, very much feels like a Sephiroth-esque character. You know, this tall, long silver hair, big sword, final boss dude. Like, I see what you're doing here. Then you have Estelle. I talked about it in Final Fantasy VII, how Aeris is my favorite character in the game. And one of the things I find really interesting is I feel like the perception of Aeris over the years has been, oh, she is just like this pure, wonderful soul and was like too good for this sinful world, and that's why she died. And then I played the game and I'm like, that's not her character at all. Her character's awesome. And it's not that there's anything wrong with being a soul too good for the sinful world. Shout out to my girl Nagisa and Glenad. And shout out to Estelle here, because it's like Estelle's character is what Aeris is remembered as. And there's this thing throughout the game where she kind of keeps telling Yuri, hey, if something ever happens to me, I want you to take care of me. Like, I know the things you do. Like, you do not hesitate to, like, kill someone if shit goes down. If something like that ever happens to me, I would want you to do it. It's very heavily foreshadowed. Then there's a boss fight between Yuri and Estelle where he has to put her down. I'm like, okay. This game wants to be Final Fantasy VII. Here's your chance to be Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII killed off a main character. If you make the player kill off, like, I mean, I guess you make an argument if Estelle or Flynn is the deuteragonist of the game. But if you make your main character and your player have to do it, that's special. That leaves an impact. And they don't go all the way with it. You do the fight, and he's like, gonna do it, but he doesn't. And you're like, now am I upset that my girl is alive? No. But you genuinely had a chance to really, like I said, make an impact, to really impress me. And you didn't. I also remember a point when you're collecting the summoned spirits, because, you know, you're going to do it. And you're in, like, the ice flows. I don't remember what they're called. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, for as much as I compare this game to Final Fantasy VII, I say, like, yo, it wants to be Final Fantasy VII so bad. There's one integral element of Final Fantasy VII's DNA that I didn't talk about earlier, and I should have. It was like, that's integral to its DNA that this game just doesn't do. And that is the stupid-ass forced minigames. Love them or hate them, that is 100% part of the identity of playing that game. It's like, alright, now you have to do a random minigame out of nowhere. Not 10 minutes later, after I say this aloud to myself, I start having to play this random, out-of-nowhere, forced rhythm minigame to continue the plot, and I just went, they did it. They did it. They proved to me unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, that they are just wanting to be Final Fantasy VII. It's not one-to-one. I'm not saying it is. But its blueprint and its thumbprint is all over this game's identity. And personally, I think 7 is a way better game. But I like Vesperia a lot. As much as I'm shitting on it, it really comes down to, I thought the game was really fun to play, and I liked my main cast a lot. But honestly, the more I've been talking about it and thinking about it, I think I like Abyss more. I really do. I think Abyss left a bigger impact on me. So I'm gonna call an audible, but I'm gonna make it official, is that Abyss is my number 3 Tales game. Vesperia is my number 2. Or, excuse me, Vesperia is my number 4. My number 2, I don't have a physical copy of Berseria, because I have it electronically. It's Tales of Berseria. I love Berseria so much. You want to talk about a Tales game with a great cast. I love the main 6 here. Here, let me just read my notes here. It said, Velvet is one of my favorite JRPG protagonists of all time. I'm 1000%. And I don't even know if she's my favorite character in the game. The whole squad rules. Fee's development is fantastic. Magilu exists. And I don't mean that in a way where it's like, yeah, she exists, she's there. Like, no, this character exists. And every time she is on, like, every second she is on screen is maybe the best second in the game. Magic Kazam. Fucking laugh every time with this character. Eleanor is baby girl. I adore her. Aizen is low-key hilarious. One of my favorite moments in the entire... Okay, so there's 2, actually. 2. About Kingdom Hearts. There's this one skit, and it's not the Beetle skit, although the Beetle skit is hysterical. I absolutely love it. But there's one where they're talking about animals. They're like, oh yeah, I'm more of a cat person. I'm more of a dog person. They just ask Aizen, hey, are you a cat person or a dog person? Well, personally, I prefer squirrels. And I don't know why I found that so funny. But he's like, nah, I'm going to pick a third option. And there's this one where they're talking about having a hideout. You're like, okay, it's, like, we need a hideout. We need a place where we can have just, like, this is our fortress of solitude. Anytime major shit goes down, this is where we go to recoup. We lick our wounds, or it's where we just go to rest. And all our allies, I guess we're going to be keeping over here. Hey, Aizen, do you have a hideout? And his response... I believe, like, I'm remembering this as an exact quote, and if it's wrong, I apologize, but I just remember him saying, it's every man's fantasy, but no, I don't have one. Just that response. It's every man's fantasy. No, I don't. Just made me laugh so hard. I love Aizen. And then you've got Rokuro, which feels weird to say, because I just consistently called him Roku Bro the entire game. I love this dude. I love just how aggro and just kind of unka-bunga the entire party is, and a lot of that is because of both Velvet and Rokuro. I remember this one meme that, the N7 showed me, and it's like a side-by-side of Eleanor and Rokuro, and then her thing is like, it's everyone you know is fighting a silent battle. Be kind. Always. And then Rokuro's thing was fight everyone always. I'm like, that sums up both of those characters perfectly. I don't love the gameplay. I'll go ahead and say that. Like, I just want TP. The weird pseudo stamina system, I didn't love, I didn't care for, but I think the cast is so good and the story is so good. Yeah, I've talked about a few times, I'm like, all right, the third act of the game, I wasn't crazy about. I didn't like the direction we were going in. I loved the Innominat reveal. And I think what I really loved about it is, while it does recontextualize parts of Artorias' story, it's still about taking down Artorias. There's with what's the thing called? I almost said terastallization, but that's not the phrase. If I had played Zestiria, I would know it, because it's the main mechanic. Armatization, thank you. Anyways, you fight the armatized version of Artorias and Innominat. It's like there's a little bit more going on. It is still about Artorias. And that part when you fight him like a third or halfway through the game and he just kicks your ass, I love that. I think that is just one of the reasons I love Berseria so much. Is that even when you get more information, even as they expound and they recontextualize parts of the story and parts of the characters, the goal remains consistent. So I feel like, for me, my experience feels a bit more consistent. Part of it is you've also got that central question. Why is it that birds fly? Because they must? Because of instinct? Because they want to be free? Because... I don't remember a lot of the things you hear throughout the game. But I remember talking to N7 at one point. And... I don't remember what I had said about Vesperia, but I had kind of... Because he had already played it. And then not Vesperia, Berseria. And we were talking about it at one point, and he just kind of texted. He's like, why is it that birds fly? And then I just responded, because they want to. Because to me, I'm like, that feels like the right answer. That feels like the kind of answer that I think Velvet would give. And I remember him asking me afterward, or like only a couple minutes later, he's like, did you already finish the game? And I was like, oh, I think that is Velvet's answer. I am really in tune with this character. Given who Velvet is, that might be a problem. But I remember that. So when I get to the end of the game, and then she gives that final answer, they fly because they want to. I'm like, yeah, like that felt just really hyped to me. I also have to give a shout out to the final boss fight. By the end of that fight, I was done. The whole party was dead. We didn't have any more life bottles. It was just me and Velvet. Because like I didn't really experiment. I just played Velvet the entire game. And I genuinely think Velvet's pretty fun. What I was doing at the end of the game, I had Artorias in a loop where I would use not her Mystic, but her super where she just, like, Therian mode. And, her super where she just, like, grah, 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 and she's, like, screaming. Because the way it works is when you do it, you get a bunch of health back, and then her health gets, like, really, like, goes back down to, like, 1, and I don't think I had any items to heal her health either. But every time I did it, I got enough resources back to do it again, so I just kept spamming it until he was dead. Which, on the one hand, to me is just kind of like a weird little funny gameplay thing that happened. It was like, alright, I got the final boss in a loop, and it just worked. But something about it kind of feels right. Or, at the end of all of this huge journey, it came down to Velvet and Artorias. And even though she was on her last legs, she overcame it with her demon powers and her indomitable human spirit and not giving up, which is the exact thing Artorias is trying to snuff out. Free will and the human spirit to make their own decisions. And that's his downfall. Absolute cinema. I love this game. This is my favorite Tales game. This is one of my favorite, like, if I did manage to limit it to 10 RPGs, this would have been somewhere on the list. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Symphonia. And then I replayed it last year and went, oh. So this game that I thought was amazing, and throughout, like, most of my life, since I was, like, 9 or so, was like, oh yeah, it's great, it's one of my favorite games. You mean it's even better than I realized? Wait a second. Because when I was a kid, because I had 2 friends that had played the game, or kind of my connection to it, and their perception of the game had also colored mine. And I remember they were like, dude, Zelos sucks. Don't like this dude. Kratos is way better. Kratos is so cool. Zelos just sucks. And Colette is so annoying. All she does is get kidnapped. She sucks too. So for years I was like, yeah, they suck. I don't like those characters. both are arguably my favorite character in the game after replaying it. I did a video on Symphonia last year, and again, kind of like with Abyss, please go watch it. I appreciate it. You get my full thoughts on it there. Short version, it is one of the only Tales games, it kind of is the only Tales game I played where I'm like, okay, wait a second. I absolutely love the cast, absolutely love the story, and absolutely love the gameplay. Because most of these, like, there's... Abyss gets there, but Abyss, like, yeah, a third of the game I just hated. And then Berseria, I'm like, I mostly tolerated the gameplay. I like how it came together for me at the very end. Symphonia, I'm like, no, the whole game is fun. And I experimented. Like, the previous time, like, I played Lloyd, like, exclusively my first playthrough. So I kind of made a point to play Lloyd as little as possible now. I played a lot of Colette. I think Colette is really fun. I think I played a little bit with Genus, and I'm like, I don't really like just standing around and casting spells. Renwell can do the whole, like, I'm just going to steal your spell or, like, hold the charge. Like, Renwell is really fun and unique to play as a caster. I think I played a little bit of Kratos. I didn't as get into Kratos. I didn't touch Regal. I had kind of wanted to, but I didn't play Regal because by that point I had Persea, and then after playing Persea, I was like, this is just the character I'm gonna play. I'm gonna be Unga Bunga, and no one is gonna stop me. I just want to hit things with my axe. I just want to see big numbers. I think Persea is really fun. She is pretty slow. And there was a long point in the game where I'm like, I'm just not learning skills anymore. There was a lot of skills she could have learned, but I think it was like I was on like the wrong type. I was like T-type and I should have been S, or I was S and I should have been T. I don't know. There's just so many abilities I just didn't get. But it was fun. It was really fun. But yeah, between like Lloyd, Colette, Zelos, and Mythos, and I'll throw Persea in there too because she was the one I played, like, I don't know who my favorite is. And that's not to say I don't like the rest of the cast, because they're great. There is a scene, it's an optional scene, of Rain confronting her mom. And I was bawling, like, the entire time. I think I had just finished, like, Persea's side quest with... I don't remember exactly how it went, but I think I actually was talking to an old friend who recognized her, but was like, wait, you can't be Persea. Like, Persea would have been, like, 30 years old by now. Like, I'm sorry, I got you confused with someone else. And you're like, oh, right. This girl lost out basically her entire life. Ow. This is really sad. And, like, 10 minutes later, I'm doing Rain's thing. I'm like, I can't hold it together, man. This is rough. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It always has been. And then after replaying it, I realized, oh, it's even better than I thought. I don't want to say that it's like Symphonia does all the heavy lifting here, because I have a lot of problems with Arise. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a good time while I was playing most of it. I had a pretty good time with Eternia. I have a lot of love for Vesperia. Even if it maybe doesn't sound like it with all the complaining I was doing, I had so much fun playing that game. And then Abyss, the last 2/3, phenomenal. Berseria, phenomenal. And then Symphonia, phenomenal. I can't put it higher than 5... because I feel like the series that come after this are all very personal to me. Like, they all have, like, a very special place in my heart. I don't think I can say that for Tales as a whole. It's almost more that, like, there's individual games that... I mean, I guess I can... You can maybe say that about series number 4, which we're clearly not going to do here. This one's been an hour and a half. But, I can't wait to talk about it because it's Kingdom Hearts, and I love Kingdom Hearts. We'll do that in a bit. That's the end of this one.